Hey y'all, I am Nisha, and this is my ASMR channel. And in today's video, we have another rendition of true crime and wine. My drink of choice today is a Correggio sangria. Those are strong, y'all. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what those are because they went like super viral a couple summers ago. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking today. So let's get into the story. I am telling the story today, and like every trigger warning ever for this story. This story is crazy. But this is the story of Leondara Cianciulli. Leondara was born on April 18th of 1893 or 1894. I'm not completely sure because like different sources said different things. So it was one of the two. She was born in Montella, Avignon, which is a province in southern France. And also, y'all, there are a lot of like Italian places and names and stuff. I'm gonna try my best not to like butcher them. I'm really trying. Okay? If you're Italian and you know how to say this stuff properly, or you speak Italian, you know how to say stuff properly, just drag me in the comments. So, as a young girl, Leondara, it seems like she had a very challenging life. Not necessarily like physically challenging or that she was like dirt poor or anything like that, but she seemed to have like a lot of mental health challenges, and it was stated that she attempted suicide twice when she was a young girl. At the age of around 22 or 23 in 1917, she married a guy named Raphael Bonsardi. And Raphael Bonsardi was a registry clerk. I looked up what exactly that was. It seems to be some type of government position in which he manages like finances. That's like the gist of it that I got. He's a registry office clerk, and it's like some type of government position in which he manages records and finances. So yeah. Leondara's mother did not approve of her marrying Raphael because she was supposed to marry another man. And everything I read, it didn't outright say like an arranged marriage, but it very much seems like it was an arranged marriage, and basically Leondara just went off the cuff and was like, I'm gonna marry who I want to marry, and I'm not marrying who you want me to marry. And that really upset her mother. It was at this point that Leondara claims this is when her mother cursed her. And I don't know, maybe there was something lost in translation, but I feel like what she's saying, cursed her, like yelled at her real bad, cursed her out, or what she saying, cursed her, like put a spell of some sort on her. A lot. Almost all of the things I saw took it as like cursed her, like with a spell. And as I continue on with the story, I think you guys don't understand why that's everyone's interpretation. So, in 1921, Leonarda and Raphael moved to Raphael's hometown, which was Potenza, which is another province in southern Italy. By 1927, Leonardo was imprisoned for fraud. There actually isn't like a lot of information about this. Everyone just says like she went to prison because she did fraud, but they don't specifically say like what exactly type of fraud that she did. I don't know, but I have an idea given how this story goes. So yeah, after she got out of prison for fraud, I think she only did like a couple years, or like a year and a half, or something like that. She did not do a long time. They moved to La Sidonia Avionzo, which is another province in southern France. But in 1930, there was a huge earthquake called the Irpinia earthquake, and that destroyed her home completely. And because of this, her and her husband moved to Reggio Emilia, which is how she gets her like nickname, the soap maker of Correggio. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry, y'all. But when she moved there, she opened up a small shop, and it was said that she was popular and well respected in her neighborhood. I don't know what type of shop she had, but during the length of her marriage, she was pregnant 17 times. Of those 17, 3 resulted in a miscarriage, and 10 of her children came to full term but died in their youth. She was highly protective of her 4 remaining children because of this. And a lot of this like protectiveness was fueled by a fortune reading that she had received earlier in her life. The fortune teller told her, you will have children and you will marry, but all of your children will die young. So yeah, as you can see, the fortune teller's prophecy was coming true in her life. She had been pregnant 17 times and 3 miscarried. 10 of them died young. There's only 4 left in it at this time. I believe the 4 that are still alive are still like significantly young. They're not grown adults. They're still young people, you know. Yeah, when she saw the first fortune teller, they described it as like she was going through a lot and she wanted to know the direction of her life, and it was like after she had tried to kill herself again, and she sought out comfort in knowing her future from a fortune this reading by a fortune teller. She visits a Romani palm reader. If you guys don't know, I have a Romanian last name, so I was just like, oh my god, a Romani palm reader, and y'all know that I think I'm a witch, so it's only up from here. But no, the Romani palm reader read her palms and then told her, like, in your right hand I see prison, in your left hand I see an insane asylum. So there aren't any real records on like what her reaction was to this, but I don't know, that would have to be like so crazy. Like, you go to this first fortune teller and she tells you like all of your kids are going to die, and then all of your kids start dying, and then you go to this second palm reader and she looks into your palms for your future, and she tells you like you got two routes, the jail or the insane asylum. Like, I would imagine that she had to believe it, even like the slightest bit. But carrying on with the story, so in 1939, she learned that her oldest son, which is also her favorite child, which every source that I looked at said that he was her favorite child. So it seems to me that she made it very clear that he was her favorite. His name was Giuseppe. I think it's Giuseppe because it's spelled like Giuseppe, the Italian shoe brand, but I could be wrong. I could be pronouncing the brand wrong. But yeah, Giuseppe, like the shoes. His name was Giuseppe, and she learned in 1939 that he would be entered into what I would assume is similar to the American war draft, but for Italy. Like, the Italian army had their own type of draft, you know, and it was in preparation for World War II. So he would be getting sent out to war, essentially. And when she heard of it, she wanted to protect him at all costs. She was determined to do whatever she had to do to save her son. And I don't know how she came to this being her conclusion on how she could save him, but she came to the conclusion that the only way to save him was to give human sacrifices in order to keep him alive. So she used 3 of her neighbors as the human sacrifices. And all of these sacrifices were middle-aged women who lived in her neighborhood and knew her, you know, considered her a friend or an acquaintance, or at the very least like a neighbor, you know. So getting into her victims, her first victim was Faustina Setti. Faustina was described as a lifelong spinster, and I actually had to look up what that meant. A spinster is a woman who is unmarried and apparently older than the prime age to marry. Like, I don't know if y'all know who Kevin Samuels is, but he always is giving unsolicited like advice to women about how to get a man. Like, if you do know who Kevin Samuels is, basically a spinster is somebody who's like in the what he calls the danger zone. like when you're approaching an age that is older than what people usually tend to marry at. But I think that's dumb. Like, people can marry whenever they want to marry. Like, there are people who don't get happily married until they're in their 50s, you know. Whatever. The lady was a lifelong spinster. She had never been married, and she was like older in age. So she actually sought out Leonarda. Faustina sought out Leonarda to help her find a husband. She was tired of being a spinster. So Leonarda told her she had a perfect match for her, and that this man was in Pola, Croatia. And yeah, she had to go there to marry him. And she persuaded Faustina to not tell her friends and family. Instead, she told her to write letters and leave postcards that she would mail off when Faustina departed, so that her friends and family would know what happened to her, but they would not try to persuade her from not going to get the husband. So Faustina listens. She leaves the letters and the postcards for her family. She doesn't tell anyone. But she leaves them the letters and stuff explaining like, oh, I'm going to Croatia. I found a husband. Da, 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 da. So right before her departure, she comes to say goodbye and stuff to Leonarda. And this is when everything pretty much goes downhill. Leonarda killed her with an axe and dragged her body into the closet. She then proceeded to cut her into 9 parts and gathered all of her blood in a basin. She put all of the cut up pieces of Faustina into a pot and added 7 kilos of caustic soda, which is a substance you use to make soap. And she stirred it until it became a thick, dark mush and emptied it in a nearby septic tank, because this is the early 1900s and everybody just has access to the neighborhood septic tank. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then for the blood in the basin, she allowed the blood to coagulate, and then she dried it out in the oven and used it to make tea cakes for her friends and neighbors or whoever would come by and wanting like a little treat. But she also admitted that her and her son also ate the cakes. I don't know if her son knew like what was in the cake, but she definitely knew, and she still ate it, so kind of gross. Yeah, her and Giuseppe also ate the tea cakes. And this is why I say she was like, I have an idea of what type of fraud she did, because somehow she received 30,000 lyre, which is like their dollars, you know, from Faustina, which was Faustina's entire life savings. And I'm not sure, like, did Faustina give that to her? I don't think so. I think like she somehow collected it when she was dead, or I don't know how this lady got this girl money, but 30,000 she came up on after she killed Faustina. So moving on to them off when you leave. And I think she was really like sending the letters off to these people's families, and they really thought like their family member left because of a job or a husband or, you know. So Francesca listened as well. She didn't tell anyone. She just wrote all of her goodbye letters and so forth. And once again, Francesca came to visit Leondara before departing to northern Italy, and she suffered the same fate as Faustina. Exactly. So she made tea cakes out of her blood and dumped all of her body parts that were melted down in caustic acid into the septic tank, just as she had did her first victim. This was on September 5th, 1940. There is I couldn't find a date for when she killed Faustina, but I suspect that it was just only slightly before Francesca. Out of Francesca, she obtained 3,000 lire, so not as much as from Faustina, but still, how is she getting these people's money? But anyways, so her third victim was a woman by the name of Virginia Cacioppo. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly. Cacioppo. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. That's the best that I can pronounce it though. So Virginia was a former soprano singer, and it seems as if she was fairly popular, you know. Like, she was known locally, like she was a good singer. Leonardo claimed to have found her a secretary job for an impresario. I also had to look up what an impresario is. And an impresario is a person who is like a music organizer. So they will coordinate things such as plays, operas, concerts. They'll get everything together for a big musical production, essentially. And she claimed that she found her a job as a secretary for an impresario, and that it was in Florence, Italy. She gave her the same setup with the letters and all of that, but what was different, she allowed Virginia to give her letters out before she departed. Like, I don't know. I think Virginia told her family and stuff, like, this is where she was going, or she sent her letters off on her own before she left. It was kind of different, like the different sources I read, but they all alluded to the fact that Virginia like told people where she was going and what she was doing before she actually left, you know. So on September 30th, 1940, she came for her final visit to Leonardo and was killed in the same fashion as the other two. But this is what Leonardo herself had to say about how she disposed of Virginia's body. She says, she ended up in the pot like the other two, yet her flesh was fat and white. When I had it melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make the most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were much better that woman was really sweet. Yeah, y'all, so she didn't just dump Virginia in a septic tank. She actually made soap out of her and then had the nerve to give it to other people. I guess she did the same thing with the tea cakes, but oh my God, like, that's crazy to me. And out of Virginia, she gained 50,000 lyre, assorted jewels, public bonds, and they said like she sold everything Virginia owned, and I guess made a profit off of that as well. Which is crazy. I was like telling my boyfriend about this story, and he was like, soap, he made soap out of her. Like, how is that possible? But like, mind you, this is like the early 1900s, and it was very common to make soap out of animal fats, so I guess it wouldn't be that big of a difference, like human fat, animal fat. Anyways, pretty much Virginia's sister becomes suspicious that her sister just up and left to some mysterious job in Florence, Italy, and she knew that the last place she visited was Leonarda's house, so she goes and reports that to the police. Basically, the police start to do an investigation, and they end up arresting and interrogating Leonarda. And in the beginning, Leonarda's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I ain't killed nobody. I don't know nothing. But then the cops start to bring up like that they think her son was involved, and she did all of this to protect her son, so she could not let her son go down for this. So she went on to confess everything she did in order to save her son from blame. And now it's not 100% sure, like there's no 100% truth on whether her son actually did help her or not. Like, we don't know. She says her son had absolutely nothing to do with it, but she would say anything to protect her son. I mean, she had just killed 3 people to protect her son, so I don't know if that's necessarily true, but on all accounts, her son had nothing to do with it, allegedly. She was tried for murder in 1946, and she was found guilty. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal insane asylum. She died while she was in the insane asylum. She only had like a year left of her sentence. She died of a brain hemorrhage, and that was on October 15th, 1970 in Pazzoli, Criminal Insane Asylum. And that is the story of Leonarda. That is the story of Leonarda Cianciulli, also known as the soap maker of Correggio. Y'all, this story was like crazy. Like, this story was literally crazy. She turned people into soap and cakes, and then she ate the cakes. I wonder if she used the soap. She probably did. Talking about she passed it out, and then she passed it out to other people. Like, girl, I don't know. This story was super crazy. Leave your opinions about it down in the comment section. And with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you would like to see more videos from